Hello, guys. It is Friday, May 14th, 2021, and it is 4 p.m., actually, a few minutes after. And I am here, as I am every Friday, to give you the latest on COVID-19 for the week. To refresh anyone's memory that doesn't know, I am Dr. Shelley Coleman Glover. I'm a board certified gynecologist who specializes in anti-aging, wellness, hormone balancing, and minimally invasive surgeries. My office is located in Central Florida, approximately 20 minutes west of Orlando, where I take care of both males and females as far as their uh, hormonal and sexual health, but also primarily women as far as their gynecological care. And I also have a master's in public health and have been very interested in the COVID pandemic since it started, and have tried to come in every single week to give you guys information, give you the latest, and preferably the greatest and not the most dismal regarding what has happened as the COVID pandemic has raged on over the last, what now? 15 months. It's as far as in the United States, where it really kind of took hold at the beginning of March, when we all went into well, not all of us, but a lot of the states started to go into lockdowns. So, as always, we start off with our numbers, and they are, as everyone knows, at least here in the United States, we have been trending downwards, which is a big blessing. And But our numbers are still, as far as COVID is worldwide, still the numbers are very high. The counts are high and increasing in many countries. So whereas the United States is actually doing very, very well, primarily due to our fabulous vaccination program, there are still, COVID is not gone. It is not dead. It's not dead in the United States. Certainly not dead worldwide. And it's and so we will go over all of that. Hi, Karen. Welcome. Worldwide, we're at 161.9 million cases and 3.36 million deaths. There are 139.7 million people that have recovered worldwide, so that is a blessing. And there are some people that, when the not people, excuse me, some of the tracking that is occurring at universities that are basically saying that there may be even as much as twice as many people that have actually been infected with COVID worldwide, and just because of the documentation that's why we don't see as many cases as are maybe prevalent. In the United States, we're at 33.6 million cases of COVID and 598,000 deaths. 26.7 million recovered, so that is a blessing. As far as the numbers the United States is still has the highest number of uh, deaths, as well as the highest number of cases compared to any other country in the world. So, as even though we are, like I said, on a downward trend, and it looks like our light at the end of the tunnel is coming faster and faster and faster. Uh, the um, uh, the 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 number of cases is still, like I said, very high here. Within India, we're at 24 million cases with 262.3 thousand deaths. Brazil's at 15.4 million, so less of their population, excuse me, not less of their population, but less numbers total of people with COVID, but their death toll is at 430.5 thousand cases. So they are actually closing in on our death toll, which is not something that is at all, of course, desired or wanted for their population. France is third, Turkey, and then Russia. And Turkey has actually now increased their numbers because Russia was actually in front before. So once again, not races that we want to be winning. And even though Turkey has less uh, uh, deaths, they actually have more cases, so their spread is not where it should be. Um, As far as within the United States, we have California's at 3.78 million cases with 62.5 thousand deaths, Texas at 2.93 million, Florida at 2.28 million with 35.9 thousand deaths, New York at 2.12 million. Illinois is fifth. And that's been the lineup all along, with California and Texas going back and forth, but it's pretty much holding about stable. As far as new cases, as of Hi, Tanita, welcome. As of uh, May 13th, the US, we had 39.8 thousand new cases and 762 new deaths. That is a significant decrease compared to where we were back a couple of months ago, where we were seeing well over 3,000 deaths a day. So we are definitely seeing significant improvement in our cases, even though, of course, every death is of concern. And for those 760 people that died, that cannot be brought back. So it's not that we are belittling that by any way, shape, or form, but it's definitely a significant improvement in our numbers compared to where we were not long ago. Within California, there are 1.9 thousand new cases. Texas is still higher right now at 2.6 thousand cases. So that's of concern. Florida's at 4,000 new cases. So Florida, even though we've been in full reopen, our numbers are still, we still are have cases, and we still have, California has the most number of deaths occurring right now, but based on um, their absolute numbers. But Florida, like I said, we actually have the highest amount of new cases this week. So we have to be careful. And that's all because of, once again, the full reopen, the spring break, all of the things that we know. Within Florida, though, our rate of positivity statewide is at 4.41%. And I do give the Florida data primarily because I am located in Central Florida. In Orange County, which is where Orlando is located, is at 4.8% positivity rate, and Lake County vacillates from week to week. Lake County was actually much lower last week at under 5%. It's now at 6.3 percent positivity rate currently. The death toll is at 36.6 thousand, and 1.28 thousand in Orange County and 639 in Lake County, which is where my office is located. The mean still holds about the same, where the average age of persons being infected with COVID in Florida are at about 40, and Lake Orange County, younger population, the average age is at 36, and Lake County at 45, because as I've mentioned to you previously, that is an older population. Um, the hospitals are doing very well here in Central Florida. Their numbers are down. They are still at 13.67% positive rate in the hospitals. That does not mean that there's a higher risk of getting COVID in the hospitals, but of course, where do the people that are sick go? They go to the hospitals. So that's why the infective rate at the hospitals is going to be higher. So it's not that there is a flaw in um, the care and safety at the hospital level. So let's just make sure everybody's clear on that. As far as vaccination, as we know, the United States has done very well. The rest of the world is behind us as far as their vaccination um, ability. We are at 36.3%, so over a third of the country is fully vaccinated now, and well over 55% are, I think it's closer to 60%, have had at least one vaccination. The goal is, once again, for us to get well above 70 to 70% of fully vaccinated Americans to reach our herd immunity. Um, and the more the merrier. But the bare minimum that we're looking for is at 70%. And then worldwide, it's only 4.4% that are fully vaccinated. When we look at the countries that are getting hardest hit, like India, they only have 3% of their population. So we're at 36% population fully vaccinated. They're at 3%. And that's one of the reasons why they are having such uh, uh, a massive amount of new cases and deaths, because they're very vulnerable. They don't have any immunity in their population. Brazil is still very low at 7.7%, and out of the top three, the highest percentages in Turkey and France, and that's still only 13% of their population. So the United States is definitely doing very well. And as you know, unless you've been under a rock, because of that, the CDC just came out with an announcement saying that they are no longer recommending in people that are fully vaccinated that they need to wear masks, whether they're indoors or outdoors. So that was something that we thought might hopefully be coming by the 4th of July, but we were pleasantly surprised that they actually made that statement now. And that does not mean, so what does it mean? That's the big question, right? What does that actually mean for those that are fully vaccinated? And what does it mean for those that are not? Um, so what that is, and why did they come out with it? So number one, why did they decide that it now that it's okay? Because they're constantly looking at the data. You know, it's not something stagnant. They get tons and tons of articles and tons of data that comes across the COVID task force desk every single day. And they're constantly trying to get America back where we need to be, back to full reopen, back to some sense of normalcy. So when they see the downward trends, they see the upward trends of vaccinations, they see the downward trends of the number of cases and the downward trends, is extremely important, of the number of deaths, then they're saying, okay, it looks like we're heading in the right direction for enough time that it seems like this time we're going to stick. And so let's go ahead and let's make some moves towards getting back to normalcy. And so that's where that's coming from. Because we know that with the messenger RNA vaccines that we're seeing a 95% pretty much um, uh, COVID protection against the usual COVID variations. Then we know that we have these extra little variants that are out there. No, they're not little, I guess, but you know, the Brazilian, the South African, and the UK variants that are very concerning because they're very contagious. Pfizer just came out and said that they are seeing an 85% protection against at least the UK variant and the South African variant with their regular vaccine that is out. We haven't heard exact percentages from Moderna, but Moderna has also been in trials with a booster vaccine specifically geared towards the variants. And they have two that they've been in testing with, and one of the variations seems to be working more effective against um, the Brazilian variant, and one seems to be more effective against the South African variant. So now they're actually in the process of kind of looking to see if there's a way that they can merge these two and to make it one super um, a booster vaccine that would, you know, give the most amount of um, protection against the variants that we know currently. So stay tuned as that is evolving, and I'm sure we will hear more about it. And there is, like I said, some thought that it's at least 80% effective against variants at this point, just with the regular Moderna vaccine, but not as effective against the variants as, say, like not that 95% against the variants. But what we need, based on when you're looking at vaccines and you're looking at diseases, you look at how transmissible it is. And even though it appears that COVID is extremely transmissible, it's not as transmissible as, let's say, something like measles, where you really need 95% of the population to be vaccinated or immune in order to keep it down. I mean, it's just extremely contagious, and people don't realize it, but can be extremely deadly. And the reason we don't see people dying of measles is because of all of the fact that 95% of the American population is vaccinated against measles. So just remember that we are vaccinated against a lot of different things. This is not something new. Vaccines are not new. And so um, with the people that are showing the hesitancy regarding vaccines, you have vaccines on board, the majority of you, because vaccinations are required to go in for school age children going into school. They're required, or at least highly recommended with babies. So you know, by the time you're 2 years old, you've had a tetanus vaccine, you've had hepatitis B vaccine, you've had most of you have had a polio vaccine, and now, of course, there's the chickenpox vaccine, which there's been controversy about that, but that is available, and so many, and obviously measles, excuse me, and mumps, and so we are vaccinated. It's not This is not something new. It's just that it's new about the COVID vaccine because I hear a lot of comparison between COVID and the flu, but don't forget that there are a lot of other vaccines out there. That's why polio is pretty much a dead disease in the United States because of the fact that the majority of us, well over 90% of the US is vaccinated against polio. And so there's a lot of stuff out there that if we weren't, we would be seeing significant side effects from. So just remember that when you hear about vaccines and vaccine hesitancy and newness of vaccines, et cetera, that it's not like your body hasn't seen a vaccine before, because it has. Even if it's never seen a flu vaccine, it's seen vaccines. And you've done okay if you're still with us, right? So anyway, the we talked about it last week. The Pfizer vaccine has been approved for age 12 to 15, and they are actively putting them in those arms, and their data is fabulous. So out of the participants in the Pfizer trial, which was well over 2,000, close to 3,000 children aged 12 to 15, they had no infections in any of the kids that were received the vaccine, and they did have 18 cases in the kids that were in the placebo group. So it definitely is highly effective at preventing disease in the 12 to 15-year-old age group, which is a blessing. And they actually have higher immunity when they check their blood titers at 1 month out than even the 16 to 25-year-old age group. So the young ones definitely are responding quite well to the vaccine. No increase in side effects or bizarre incidents or anything like that in that age group. And there actually are ongoing studies in as young as 6 month olds. So they have different groups. They're looking at a 6 to 11 and a 2 to 6 and a 6 month to 2 year old age group. So we will see as the data unfolds, they will be expanding that. And why is it important to vaccinate the kids? Well, first of all, there's over 26 million kids that have actually have contracted COVID. So it's not like kids are not getting COVID. Yes, less than 1% of those kids, less than 0.1% are dying of it. So that's been the blessing. We're just very, very lucky that this disease did not attack our young kids. And so as far as morbidity and mortality. However, these kids can get sick. They have over 3,000, almost 3,600, I think 3,700 cases of that rare immune disorder that we're seeing in children who have had COVID. So even kids that have had COVID with really no symptoms at all, a couple of months later, they can show this rare um, uh, immune disorder that can be very life threatening. So there are things out there. It's not that kids are immune, and it's not that it's okay. And then remember, of course, that those kids are then going to interact with other people. And if they have it, they could be completely what appears to be asymptomatic, or just like a little bit of a sniffle or something like that, because they're not going to necessarily look deathly ill. And then if they're interacting and out in the public, you're taking them with you places. Because you don't think that they're sick, or you don't care that they have COVID because you think they're not going to have a bad response, but you're exposing them to other people, including family members that may have weakened immune systems, whether it's because they're older or because of other illnesses they have, that these kids can then be transmitting it as well. So not only for the safety of the kids, also what are the long-term effects? We don't know. We do not know. We do not know. I keep telling you over and over that. We don't know that. We know that at least in our adults, there are adults that have very mild cases of COVID that then that then go on to become long haulers, whether it's something as basic as not having a sense of taste and smell for well over a year. To We documented potential brain damage, lung damage, pancreas damage. What are the long-term effects to our children as well as to adults that get COVID? So the data is still evolving, and the what I would say is that I know many people who have contracted COVID that would have given their left arm, leg, foot, and every other body part to have avoided having to contract that illness, having had to go through it, whether they had mild symptoms or not, just the fear of the fact that you don't know when you get COVID whether or not you're going to be one of the lucky ones or you're not going to be one of the lucky ones. And then the potential for the longer term effects. And it's annoying. I mean, it's like none of us want to be ill, and none of us certainly want to. You want to recover from your illness. You don't want to have it where it just drags on and on and on. And the fatigue is just classic. And almost everybody that's had COVID that I talk to continue to have some degree of fatigue that lags on, whether it's 2 weeks, whether it's 2 months, whether it's, there are people now going into their second year where they're having severe fatigue. So don't forget that it's not just the immediate effects of COVID. And okay, I survived it, I didn't die, but what are the long-term effects of COVID? And the fact that we have vaccines that are available, that once now that we have the 12 to 15 age group, I think that that takes our numbers up to about 85% of Americans would be able to be vaccinated if they want to. Um, so that's great. And the kids want to get vaccinated. That's what's interesting. The kids actually get it, and most of them want to get back to normalcy. They don't, of course, want to wear masks. They don't want to be social distance, and they are willing to. And they actually, even though as I was watching one of the programs, they were saying, like we always think that our teenagers are very self-centered, but they actually are. And when it comes to the the safety of the world. They get it. They're young and they want to see their country be protected. They want to see. They want, they can see that their life is in front of them, and they know what they want it to look like. And so they are very much open and overall and to receiving their vaccine and actually signing up to get it done. I can tell you, like I said, that my daughter got her first vaccine now 2 weeks ago. She's getting her second Pfizer booster in a week, and her main thing, she's scared of needles, so she didn't want to get stuck just because she's petrified of needles. But it wasn't because she was against the vaccine, because of concerns with the actual vaccine, and she very much wants to be able to interact with her friends without concern, and be able to go back to normalcy in the school system and not be concerned about contracting COVID. She actually likes to. Yes, there are kids that like to take the school bus. She actually likes to take the school bus, and so that's one of the things that she was very excited to um, be able to start riding the school bus again once she's fully vaccinated. So these are the things that can occur. There's a lot of states that are doing different things to try to encourage vaccination. I may have mentioned to you last week that New Jersey's offering a free beer at any of their pubs if people go in and show their vaccine card and got vaccinated in the month of May. They're actually setting up things at baseball games and all sorts of things and the little incentives to try to encourage people to get vaccinated. We're going along. There's about one in uh, 8 adults that are basically saying that they are not planning to get the vaccine at all, and about 1 in 5 adults that are saying that they don't want their children to get vaccinated. So we will see how things unfold as we go forward. As far as going back to what can we do with the as fully vaccinated people, so the recommendation by the CDC is that once again you can be unmasked both in indoor situations and outdoor situations without significant concern. Now, remember, it's not 100% um, immunity. It's 95% against the normal variants, and with Pfizer, 85% against the UK and the South African. So that means there is a 5 to 15% chance of actually getting COVID. So, and I know that is it Bill Maher just tested positive for COVID, and he's fully vaccinated. So it's not impossible. So I don't want you to think that there's nothing 100 proof, right? Except for we have to pay taxes and we're going to die at some point, right? So, and I guess the people that don't pay their taxes, but we know that we're born, that we're going to die. But other than that, nothing is 100% here. So the vaccine is good as it gets. It's definitely much better than we thought that it was going to be as far as the efficacy of the vaccine. But it doesn't mean that if you're fully vaccinated, that there's no way at all that you can get COVID. So just be aware of that. However, what we're seeing is that when you get it, usually the symptoms are extremely mild, and that it doesn't appear that that people that are fully vaccinated are walking around um, with COVID and don't know that they have it, that are asymptomatic and spreading it to other people. So it does decrease transmission. It does decrease the actual ability to get infected, and of course, it does the most important stuff, which is it keeps you out of the hospital, out of the ICU, and out of the morgue. So does that mean now that I can just shed my mask and do whatever I want to do? Well, no. There is recommendations from the CDC, the recommendations that your states will have, and your local municipalities can have. And then there is private business. So private businesses can still do what they please. And so you may choose not to go into that business if you don't want to wear a mask, and they say that it's mandated, but you cannot make a private business do what, like if the private business says that masks are required to enter, then you still have to wear your mask to enter that private business. The airlines have not relaxed as far as being in the airports and being on the planes at this point. So stay tuned on that. But here in Florida, it's interesting because I went into a smoothie restaurant last week, and the the woman behind the counter did not have a mask on. And even though I'm fully vaccinated, it was such a weird feeling because I think we've worn masks for so long. And I'm used to here, even in Florida, even in the restaurants, once you get into the restaurant, you're able to sit down at a table, you're able to take your mask off if you're eating, but the wait staff all are fully masked. So it was a very weird feeling to be in a place and have the person that was waiting on me not be masked and that was handling my stuff and stuff like that. So it was a little disconcerting. So I think it's going to take, some people are like, done, take the mask off. Obviously, this wasn't, it was a young girl. So of course thinks she's COVID proof anyway. I think that there are going to be some people that are completely comfortable with getting rid of the mask and going about their business, and then there are going to be some of us like me that are a little bit like hesitant, um, just because we're just so now indoctrinated into wearing the mask. But on the one hand, that's true, but on the other hand, I'm going to be really happy not to wear them, and I have definitely um, decreased the amount that I've worn them, but I still have one available and I still do throw it in if I'm just not comfortable with the situation. Especially if there was anybody around me coughing or sneezing or doing anything like that, then I'm definitely gonna be still very concerned about that. And I think that if you are immunocompromised, you need to be, even if you're fully vaccinated, I would be very careful with that because your immune system is weakened. And once again, 5 to 15%, if you're one of those people and you're immunocompromised, it could be a problem. So I'd be a little careful, talk to your doctor about. What does it mean to you? And then that's a decision that you will have to make. Of course, how is this going to be enforced is the other concern. And because I've had my staff even approach me about whether or not we're going to have masks. I can tell you that the hospitals are still maintaining mask mandates for their employees and for um, uh, both hospitalized patients and those coming to visit them. They have, some of the hospitals have allowed, no mask wearing within your room, but if you come out of your room, that you have to have a mask on, and that's for the protection, obviously, of the other people that are in the hospital. Within private businesses, of course, the concern is that you don't know who's fully vaccinated and who's not. And so, unless you're going to have somebody at the door checking people to say, show me your vaccination card and you can come in without your mask, it's going to be kind of hard to really enforce that. And so, I think that what we're going to start to see is um, a transition where there'll be people that wear masks and people that don't. And my office is pretty much 95% COVID proof. All of the staff except for one has been fully vaccinated or has had COVID and has antibodies. So you have to stay tuned and see how we're going to handle that. And I think it's going to be, we'll probably poll our patients too and see what they think. Hi, Tiffany. Nice to see you, sweetie. And so I think that, so I think that I don't know yet. So stay tuned. I will be talking about it. We'll be polling. I think we're going to send out an email and poll our patients and see what our patients' concern and level of comfort is. And I would say that I was just reading about Central Florida, which is like I told you where I'm located, and they were saying that we actually in Central Florida have the highest amount of vaccine hesitancy in the state, which is interesting, and 33% of people believe that it's a big hoax, that there is no COVID, and that it's all being made up, and that therefore they don't need to get vaccinated because there isn't any big bad ugly disease out there. So that's very concerning. And then another 30% just don't think it affects them, and that's probably more of our younger population, because they see it as a disease of the elderly, or they see it as a disease that affects is more dangerous in minorities, or um, like I said, our younger people that just think that they just don't are hearing of severe illnesses affecting the younger age groups. As I mentioned last week, though, the variants are more aggressive, it appears, in the younger population. So we are seeing, of the people that are getting hospitalized, the actual age of the people getting hospitalized is actually going much younger. And one of the main reasons is because in Florida, over 80% of our over 65 population is fully vaccinated. And so we're seeing the benefits of that. They are staying out of the hospital, they're staying out of the ICU, and they're staying out of the morgue. But because a significant portion of our younger population is not, we are seeing an increase in hospitalizations in that point. So, yes, if you are not fully vaccinated, nobody's probably going to be able to keep track. Like I said, unless they got somebody at the door as to whether or not you're vaccinated or not. And so it's going to be on you whether or not you're wearing that mask or not. But realize that if you are not wearing a mask, that we have not reached herd immunity, and therefore, if you are unmasked, you are at risk for getting COVID. And you are at risk of being hospitalized. You're at risk of being in the ICU, and you're at risk of dying. And so, do not think that just because we've got over 30% of the population fully vaccinated, that means that you're out of the woods. That means that over 70% of the population, or close to 70%, is not vaccinated fully and could potentially be carrying COVID. So until our numbers come up much higher, if you are not fully vaccinated, I would recommend that you still toe the line and wear your mask and maintain your social distancing. But I can tell you that the majority of people that haven't vaccinated around here uh, are probably not pro mask either. So we shall see how this all folds out. And hopefully, the main thing is not to have to go backwards, ideally, because it's always harder to um, go backwards. But the CDC has already said, we know that this disease is not pretty. We know this disease can change in a drop of a hat, and it can flip. And so they've already said we may have to rescind our recommendations based on how things unfold over the next, weeks to months. So we shall see. But I think that we're making the right moves in the positive direction, and I'm hoping against hope that we do not see a fourth resurgence here in the United States, that our downward trend continues to go downward as more and more of our younger population gets vaccinated, and hopefully some of the people that are hesitant, that then see that the rest of us that have been fully vaccinated aren't glowing in the dark, except for on Thursdays, and don't have any extra appendages or anything else weird that's happening to us, that they will be more open to getting vaccinated as well. So only time will tell with that. Um, Other than that, I just wanted to mention that we have, for those people that do get COVID, and are not fully, so if you get COVID and you're fully vaccinated, the likelihood is that you're going to do pretty well. It's going to be a very mild illness. But um, if you're not fully vaccinated, and you get COVID and your symptoms are getting worse, you really should get a pulse oximeter, that little thing that you put on your finger. You should have that. You can, thank God there's no run on anything at this point. So you can get those, and you can have those, and you can put that on your finger, because by the time you realize your oxygen levels are low, a lot of times by that point you're hitting a wall, and you're very ill. So you need to be checking. You should be oxygenating unless you have lung disease, you should vaccinate on romer over 95% easily. And most of us oxygenate over 97 to 98%, just so everybody's clear on what those numbers are. But if you're dropping down into the 88, 85, and 88%, that's hospitalization. And potentially at 85% and under, that's getting actually intubated in an ICU. So just realize this is, or definitely getting high in oxygenation with mask and hood. So this is not something to play with. There are treatments out there for people that do work. If I mean, they're not 100%, but the monoclonal antibodies, although they're extremely expensive, they are covered right now. And you can go, you have to be referred by your physician. We've had this conversation before, and you only have 9 days. So you can't wait until you're really ill and going the wrong way and not catching beforehand. If you're not feeling significantly better within a couple of days of getting COVID and you feel like your symptoms are getting worse, you need to get in and get care immediately so that you can keep yourself out of the hospital, out of the ICU, and out of the morgue. So, on that note, I will say that that's pretty much all I had for this week, and I'm really excited that it is basically, except at least here in the United States, that it's a nice positive note. I really am excited. We were excited a little bit ago, and then it kind of started going the wrong way, but now we're heading the right way again, and it seems to be staying heading the right way. So that is wonderful, and we're really excited. And then I just wanted to mention that we talked about. Many times about boosting your immune system. And for those of you that don't know, May is actually masturbation month. It's self love, and so that is a great thing. You don't have to worry about getting COVID. You don't have to worry about leaving your home if you don't want to. So it's completely safe. And whether or not you are engaging in activities with yourself and or with a partner, we do know that there are a lot of health benefits to having intercourse and actually having release. And so, as far as decreasing stress, as far as which boosts your immune system, as far as allowing for pleasure release, which helps with anxiety and depression, and also boost your immune system. So there are sleeping, you sleep better, and so there's a lot of you're less crabby, you're less irritable, so the world is a happier place. So these are things that you just need to take into account, and there are a lot of taboos that some people have regarding that kind of thing. It's completely, I'm not here to tell you what you should do and what you shouldn't do, but as far as some of the crazy things that you may hear about it being dangerous or causing some kind of negative effects or anything like that. That is none of that is true. So don't worry about it from a healthcare perspective. It's actually considered to be a positive, not a negative. And like I said, at least in COVID, it's something that's completely safe and you don't have to wear a mask for. So anyway, on that note, as always, I am going to wish you guys good health. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next Friday. Take care.